That's all to come, but now let's focus on a man who has, dominated much of the early transfer talk this summer. That is Bryan Mbuemo. Will he be following Thomas Frank out of Brentford? And if so, will it be to Spurs or will it be to Manchester United? We spoke to the player yesterday, and you'll have seen that with us, I'm sure. Wasn't giving too much away, was he? Let's, before we come to the Spurs angle on this, get the Manchester United perspective with you, Mark. Linked with him for some time. They've got competition from Tottenham Hotspur. How confident are they of getting their man?
Well, Manchester United will be supremely confident of getting a player that they've identified as someone that can massively improve that attack at Old Trafford. We know that they're relaxed about their pursuit of Bryan Mbuemo. In fact, really, he had turned down other Premier League sides to get to the point where Manchester United were lodging bids for Bryan Mbuemo. Their first offer was rejected, which we understand to be around £55 million. But they know that Bryan Mbuemo has effectively chosen Manchester United. Now, we say effectively, that was at the point maybe a week, 10 days ago, when there were the teams at the table and he said, right, thanks very much for everyone's interest, but I've decided to go to Manchester United. I know Michael is going to interrupt me in a minute and say, hang on a second, things have changed at one North London club in the last few days, and therefore could that change the destination of Bryan Mbuemo? He has 1 year left on his Brentford contract, but the club do have an additional year, so therefore it's effectively a 2-year deal that would get Bryan Mbuemo out of his contract. We know that there is interest, and we know that Brentford want around £60+ million for the wide man who's been there since 2019. His numbers stack up, very consistent with what he does, brilliant relationships with every...
Welcome back to the United News, your ultimate destination for everything Manchester United. I'm your host, and if you're a Red Devils fan, you're going to want to stick around because today's episode is absolutely packed with transfer bombshells that could reshape United's entire attack. We're sitting here with United languishing in 15th place in the Premier League table, and let me tell you, the club is not sitting idle. The transfer machinery is working overtime, and we've got 3 massive stories that could define United's immediate future. First up, Bryan Mbuemo from Brentford, the man who bagged 20 goals last season and has been compared to Mohamed Salah himself. But here's where it gets interesting. Andre Onana has reportedly been playing matchmaker behind the scenes, trying to convince his Cameroon teammate to choose Old Trafford. With United's £55 million bid already rejected and talks of offers exceeding £60 million, this could be the signing that finally gives Ruben Amorim the attacking firepower he desperately needs. But wait, Tottenham have just thrown a curveball into the mix with Thomas Frank's appointment, and Frank knows Mbuemo better than anyone. Then we have Hugo Ekitike, the 22-year-old French sensation who just exploded for 22 goals with Eintracht Frankfurt. Transfer insider Graham Bailey has been dropping some fascinating insights about this deal, comparing Ekitike's style to Kylian Mbappe. But here's the kicker, Frankfurt want £85 million for him. Now, before you start having Antony flashbacks, Bailey's sources are saying nobody's taking that price seriously. The real question is, can United land a striker who plays like Mbappe without paying Mbappe money? And finally, we have Matheus Cunha, who's already through the door at Old Trafford, carrying the weight of history on his shoulders. When asked about his favorite Brazilian to play for United, Cunha's awkward pause said everything. Could he finally be the player to break the curse and become United's first true Brazilian legend? 3 players, 3 different stories, but one common thread. They could all be the missing pieces that transform United from mid-table mediocrity back to title contenders. We're going to break down every detail, every connection, every tactical fit, and most importantly, what this means for United's immediate future under Ruben Amorim. Whether you're Team Mbuemo, backing Ekitike, or putting all your faith in Cunha, this episode has everything you need to know about United's transfer revolution. And trust me, with Fabrizio Romano keeping us all on our toes with his latest updates, these stories are moving fast. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive deep into the transfers that could change everything at Old Trafford. Because if United get these deals right, we might just be witnessing the beginning of something special. But if they get them wrong, well, we all know how that story ends. This is the United News, and we're about to unpack the most crucial transfer window in recent United history. Let's get started. Will Bryan Mbuemo be the missing piece Manchester United needs? Picture this. Manchester United are sitting 15th in the Premier League table, fans are frustrated, and the club desperately needs a spark. Then along comes Brian Mbuemo, a player who scored 20 goals last season and has been compared to Mohamed Salah. Could this be the signing that turns everything around for the Red Devils? The transfer rumor mill is spinning fast, and one name keeps popping up, Brian Mbuemo from Brentford. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about Manchester United wanting him. Tottenham are in the mix too, and there's a fascinating story about how Andre Onana might have played matchmaker. Who is Brian Mbuemo and why should United fans care? Before we dive into all the transfer drama, let's talk about who Brian Mbuemo actually is. The 25-year-old winger had an absolutely brilliant season with Brentford. He didn't just score 20 goals, he also provided 8 assists in 38 Premier League games. That's serious numbers for a player at a mid-table club. What makes Mbuemo special? He's got pace, he can finish with both feet, and he's incredibly direct. Former Tottenham defender Jason Cundy called him a mini Salah on TalkSport, and when you watch him play, you can see why. He likes to cut inside from the right wing, just like the Liverpool star, and he's got that knack for finding the back of the net. But here's what really catches the eye: Mbuemo's work rate. He doesn't just score pretty goals and disappear. He tracks back, he presses defenders, and he's always looking to make things happen. That's exactly the kind of player Ruben Amorim needs in his system. The Andre Onana connection, friend or transfer agent? Now here's where the story gets really interesting. Andre Onana, Manchester United's goalkeeper, plays alongside Mbuemo for Cameroon. And according to reports, Onana has been doing some convincing behind the scenes. Think about it, you're Brian Mbuemo, you've got multiple clubs interested in you, and your international teammate who plays at one of those clubs is telling you it's the right move. That carries weight, doesn't it? The Manchester Evening News reported that Onana has advised Brian Mbuemo to join Manchester United. It's not hard to imagine those conversations happening. Maybe during international duty, maybe over the phone. Onana knows what it's like at Old Trafford. He knows the setup, the training ground, the expectations. But is this normal? Actually, yes. Players talk to each other all the time about potential moves. Remember how Virgil van Dijk spoke to Sadio Mane before joining Liverpool? Or how Brazilian players often influence each other's decisions? It's part of modern football. The question is, how much influence does Onana really have? Mbuemo seems like a smart player who'll make his own decision, but having a trusted teammate speak positively about a club definitely helps. Why Manchester United need Mbuemo right now? Let's be honest, Manchester United's season has been disappointing. Sitting 15th in the Premier League isn't where this club should be. They've already signed Matheus Cunha from Wolves, but they need more attacking threat. Ruben Amorim likes to play with wingbacks and attacking midfielders who can create and score. Mbuemo fits that profile perfectly. He can play on either wing, he can cut inside and shoot, and he's got the pace to stretch defenses. Think about United's current options on the right wing. They've got Antony, who's been inconsistent. They've got Amad Diallo, who shows promise but needs more experience. Mbuemo would come in as an immediate upgrade, a player who's proven he can score goals in the Premier League. But it's not just about the goals. Mbuemo's movement is intelligent. He knows when to come short, when to run in behind, when to drift wide. That kind of tactical awareness is crucial in Amorim's system. The Tottenham threat: can Spurs hijack the deal? Here's where things get complicated. Tottenham have just appointed Thomas Frank as their new manager, and Frank knows Mbuemo better than anyone. After all, Frank was the one who developed Mbuemo at Brentford. Frank turned Mbuemo from a decent championship player into a Premier League goal scorer. Under Frank's guidance, Mbuemo learned how to find space in the box, how to time his runs, how to be clinical in front of goal. That relationship is special. When Sky Sports asked Mbuemo about Frank recently, you could hear the respect in his voice. He said Frank literally trusted me from the start and developed me as a human and a player. Those aren't just nice words, that's genuine appreciation. So now Tottenham have Frank, and they're making a late push for Mbuemo. It's classic Spurs, isn't it? Wait until another club does all the groundwork, then swoop in at the last minute. But here's the thing, Tottenham might have Frank, but do they have the same pull as Manchester United? United are a bigger club with more history. Yes, they're having a tough season, but they're still Manchester United. What Mbuemo has said about his future. Mbuemo has been pretty clever with his words when asked about potential moves. He knows the game. When Sky Sports asked him about all the transfer speculation, he said it was a bit new for him but that it's the life of a footballer. That tells us he's taking it all in stride. He's not getting carried away, but he's not dismissing it either. Smart approach. He also talked about having his best season so far in the Premier League and how Brentford were unlucky not to qualify for Europe. That shows ambition. He wants to play at the highest level, and right now, that might mean moving to a bigger club. The fact that he praised Thomas Frank so highly might worry United fans, but remember, players can have great relationships with former managers and still choose to move elsewhere. Look at how Harry Kane spoke about Mauricio Pochettino but still left Tottenham for Bayern Munich. The numbers game. Is Mbuemo worth the money? Manchester United have reportedly had a £55 million bid rejected and are now looking at offers over £60 million. Is Mbuemo worth that kind of money? Let's look at the numbers. 20 goals and 8 assists in the Premier League is excellent production. That's 28 goal contributions from a winger at a mid-table club. Imagine what he could do with better players around him. Compare that to what United paid for Antony, £85 million for a player who struggled to make the same impact. Suddenly, $60 million for Mbuemo looks like good business. Age is on Mbuemo's side too. At 25, he's entering his prime years. He's experienced enough to handle the pressure at a big club, but young enough to improve further. That's the sweet spot for transfers. How would Mbuemo fit into Amorim's system? Ruben Amorim likes his teams to play with intensity and precision. His system at Sporting worked so well because every player knew their role. Mbuemo would fit perfectly into that setup. In Amorim's 3-4-2-1 formation, Mbuemo could play as one of the attacking midfielders behind the striker. He's got the pace to get in behind defenses, the skill to link up with teammates, and the finishing ability to score goals. But he could also play as a wingback if needed. His work rate and defensive commitment mean he wouldn't be a liability when the team doesn't have the ball. That versatility is huge for a manager like Amorim. The key would be giving Mbuemo freedom to drift inside and find pockets of space. That's where he's most dangerous, and that's exactly how Amorim likes his attacking players to operate. What this move would mean for both clubs. If Mbuemo joins Manchester United, it would send a message. It would show that even in a difficult season, United can still attract top talent. It would give fans something to be excited about. For Tottenham, missing out on Mbuemo would be frustrating, especially with Thomas Frank now in charge. Frank knows exactly how to get the best out of Mbuemo, and losing him to a direct rival would sting. But for Brentford, selling Mbuemo would be bittersweet. They'd make a huge profit on a player they developed, but they'd lose their star performer. That's the reality for smaller clubs in the Premier League. The verdict? Will this deal happen? Based on everything we know, it looks like Manchester United have the upper hand. Mbuemo reportedly prefers Old Trafford to Tottenham, despite Frank's arrival at Spurs. Onana's influence might be the deciding factor. The money is there. United have shown they're willing to pay over £60 million. The player seems interested. The manager wants him. All the pieces are falling into place. Tottenham's late interest might complicate things, but it feels like United have done their homework early and built the stronger case. Final thoughts. Could this be the start of something special? Manchester United fans have been through a lot of disappointment in recent years. Failed signings, poor performances, broken promises. But sometimes, one signing can change everything. Could Bryan Mbuemo be that signing? A player who brings goals, pace, and work rate. A player who's hungry to prove himself at the highest level. A player who could be the missing piece in Amorim's puzzle. The next few weeks will be crucial. Transfer windows can change quickly, and football is unpredictable. But right now, it looks like Bryan Mbuemo could be heading to Old Trafford. If it happens, United fans will have every right to be excited. After all the frustration and disappointment, they might finally have something to look forward to. And who knows? This could be the signing that gets Manchester United back where they belong, challenging for trophies and playing the kind of football their fans deserve. The question isn't whether Mbuemo is good enough for Manchester United. The question is whether Manchester United are ready to make the most of a player who could be special. Only time will tell, but the signs are looking very promising indeed.